your questions tonight. Before we get started, I just wanted to visit the Buzztouch page here. You can see from the Buzztouch page, I'm just on the About Buzztouch. And this is our leadership team. David Book is the founder, and then all the rest of these crazy looking people here are all the leadership team. There's me, I'm Chris, and this is Ian. We like to just start off by showing that, just to show you that we are real people. You know, this is a project that's been going on for a while, and we're lucky enough to be a part of it. And it's just, I think it's neat sometimes to see that there are real people kind of behind the scenes, answering the questions, doing webinars like this, and helping you guys achieve whatever goals you're looking for. So I'm going to be going back and forth to this kind of presentation just to keep me going in a straight line at least, but then we're going to be jumping back and forth to the website also and doing some stuff around the website, showing you around. If you're a new user, then this is here in the perfect place. If you're not exactly new, but you just wanted to learn more, then you're in the perfect place also. So here's some of the things that we're going to be going over in tonight's webinar. A brief overview of what Buzztouch is, because that's sometimes, you know, sometimes the website doesn't exactly explain everything perfectly. So if you're still trying to wrap your head around how it works, then we're going to be covering that tonight. What can you do with Buzztouch? How does Buzztouch work? Who is Buzztouch for? How is Buzztouch different? There's a lot of other sites out there. And then where do I start? And hopefully this 90 minutes will give you a jump start on how to use Buzztouch. And by the end of this webinar, I'll make an app right before your eyes, so you can see how easy it is to make an app and get it compiled and get it running and put it on a simulator and hopefully answer any questions along the way. So there's going to be a couple different question breaks along the way also. If you have any questions, you can just type them into the question panel and they'll show up, and then the ones that Ian can answer quickly, he'll just answer for you, and the ones that would lend themselves better to being a full answer by voice, then we'll go ahead and field those also. As we get into that section also for the questions, we can unmute your microphones and let you guys actually talk to us if you have a microphone on your computer. And the last promise that we always make is that Ian and I aren't going to leave this webinar until everybody's questions are answered, as long as obviously there are questions pertaining to Buzztouch and to the presentation tonight. Maybe not like algebra or anything like that, but if it gets that far, we can do that too.
Yeah, no math for me.
I'll handle the math for you.
Good.
All right, so what is Buzztouch? And this is kind of a block of text right from our website, from the About screen. And I like to paraphrase it by saying that it's a tool, really. It's a set of tools that help you create apps. So you can see that it says on there that it's used by more than 175,000 people, and that number is growing every day, and we'd love to see that number grow. I think we're getting close to being on, how many devices did we say? 20 million? We're getting close to having 20 million different devices out there. That would be phones and tablets.
Yeah,
running
that's a lot.
apps created by Buzztouch. That's a lot, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So people are using it. It's working, and it's working good. So it's an online website that lets you create the apps, and then you can download the source code and run it in your compiler, and we'll get into what all that means. And then once it's all running, and once it's compiled, or once it's submitted out to the store, or it's on somebody's phone, then you can go back to the Buzztouch website and make changes to it. And those changes happen what I like to call dynamically, meaning that you can make changes and you don't have to recompile, you don't have to resubmit. So what can you do with Buzztouch? Like we had described, you can quickly develop mobile apps of varying complexity, and we'll talk about what varies in the complexity, how you can start with something easy and make it better and better and better. And then you can manage those same mobile apps from the online control panel. So how does it work? These are kind of the steps that we take to create an app and manage that app. So you create a project. So a project in your control panel is going to be, you would have a separate project for each app. Once you create that project, you obviously give it a name and stuff. We'll go through that. But you add and configure your screens, which are made from plugins. So each plugin, it kind of serves a purpose, and we'll show you the plugins page here in a minute and show you what the different plugin types are. But each plugin serves a purpose, whether it's a menu or whether it's a content screen like a sound, a video, or a PDF file. And you compile all those together into screens. So as you develop your app, you just develop it screen by screen and add them one at a time, link them all together, and then create the app that you're trying to make. After you do that in your control panel, you can download the source code. You open that source code in your compiler, whether it's Xcode for Apple products or Eclipse for Android projects. And then once you do that, you would either see it running on a device or a simulator. We'll talk about some of the requirements for how to get those running on those different simulators also. So who is Buzztouch for? The short answer and the most complete answer is that top one there, saying anyone and everyone. I've been using Buzztouch for 2 years now, and I've seen from this list here, I've seen all these different types of people: non-developers, people brand new that have never made an iPhone app before, and that was me when I first found the site. Developers, we see that people are finding Buzztouch that already have experience making apps, but they want to learn how to make them faster, or they want to make them more efficiently. Web developers, we see a lot of people who have maybe come from the web developing, making websites or something like that, from that kind of background, and just trying to keep up with the times, knowing that mobile content or mobile apps are going to be, in more demand right now than a website. Businesses, I've seen businesses, whether it's a restaurant or a pet shop or something like that, creating an app to help advertise or engage with their clients. And then just the rest of the gambit: doctors, teachers, photographers, musicians, entrepreneurs, 12-year-old kids, just about everybody we've seen all walks of life come to Buzztouch and be successful. So how is Buzztouch different? We always start off by talking about the community first, because when I think about what makes Buzztouch so special, it's really, it's an awesome product, but behind that product is a team of people. But even in addition to that team of people is just the entire community and all the members in the forum, all the people who are using Buzztouch and have learned the same way that I did, plugging away at it. And now they're all sticking around and happy to help other people. So let's visit the forum real quick. From the main site, we'll just click on forums. And this is a very active community of people who are all willing to help. And you can see that there's down here, we're up to now almost 15,000 topics, and that's not posts, that's topics, meaning questions that were answered or discussions that were held. We got it split up into all these different categories here. And pretty much any question that gets asked, whether it's a technical question or just an advice type question, people usually jump on those questions quicker than I can even see them come to the site and answer. And it's a great feeling to see that other people who have may have, a year ago asking the same question are now answering the questions for the new people. And I can't stress enough how helpful everybody is, and it really makes our job here at Buzztouch a lot easier, having that kind of support. And we'll talk about the community as we go on and brag about it, because we're very proud of that. So how else is Buzztouch different? Keeping the source code, that's a big thing. If you're brand new to this and you don't see the benefit of that, you will at some point see the benefit of that. And what that means is the source code is all the code that it takes to compile to make your app. And what a lot of companies will do is they'll keep that away from you, and they'll compile the app for you, because they know if you have the source code, then you really don't need their services, whether it's a company that charges you by month or by project or by the year. If you have the source code, then you really have full control of that app. And that's something that we embraced early on. That's what we wanted you to have. we want all the users of Buzztouch to have complete control of the app. Of course, you're going to use the control panel and the website to help speed up the process of making an app. But if you wanted to take that source code and bring it to another developer or manually tweak it yourself, then you have that complete control with you. So some services, like I said, they'll compile for you and charge you for that. Some other services will keep the source code away from you. But say if you purchase the highest level account with us, then you can download the source code. With us, it's just simple. Whether you're a guest or a member, and we'll talk about what that means, you get to download the source code and you get to keep it, and you have complete control of that. That's very important when you think about the online world and how a website can be here today and gone tomorrow. And that's not anything that we're ever planning or hoping to ever happen. But any of the other services out there, if they disappeared and they had complete control of your source code, then you might have an app that's out there in the App Store and you need to make changes to it, and you can't because that company's gone. So with Buzztouch, if you have the source code, even if Buzztouch disappeared tomorrow, and we're not going to, you would still have the source code, and you would not be left out in the dark. So the next thing that we like to say is different about Buzztouch is what I call project scalability. And what I mean by that is being able to start with something simple and then just scale it up in complexity as you learn. And that's another thing that we like to do at Buzztouch is help you guys not only make apps and make the apps that you're looking to do, but learn in the process, learn how to make apps and learn how to do some of the coding. And it's fun to see people kind of take the baby steps and eventually end up even surpassing some of our skills. It's kind of neat to see that. But some app builders, it says there, will allow you to create an app by learning a programming language. So sometimes it's a service that you don't have to learn, maybe Objective-C, which is the programming language for iPhones. Maybe you have to learn something else like HTML or CSS, and then so you still have to learn something. And that's okay for some people that maybe already have a skill in a certain language and they're just looking for a way to port it over. Some app builders let you do everything without any code, but they really end up being very limited in function. Sometimes you hear those referred to as cookie cutter apps, where you kind of just drag a screen on and change a color, change a title on it, and at the end of the day, everybody's apps start to look the same. Well, Buzztouch, we like to think that we're somewhere in the middle. We can start off with a simple type of app and let you, add a couple screens and make a couple easy changes like we're going to do tonight. But then with the plugins, with all the different plugins and the ability to create plugins yourself, there's really no limit to the complexity that you can eventually add to your project. So there's no restrictions on how far you can go with it. Some of the other services, what you see is what you get. You can add, a dozen different screens, but that's about it. With Buzztouch, there's no limit. Which leads me up to plugins. Plugins, as we've been talking about, are the different types of screens that we can add to our app. And what's special about the plugins at Buzztouch is we start you off with a core set of plugins that are kind of the norm, kind of the ones that you want to start with and learn with. But then we have a complete plugin market that's growing every day, where the plugins are created by our own users. So they're creating new screens that they can share with other users or sell in the market, and so you're able to use screens that are changing all the time. So I'm going to go back to the website real quick and look at the plugin market. So up at the top here, we click on plugins, and this is the list of everything that's in the plugin market. Now, some of them are free, some of them cost money, and you can see the ones that do cost money. There is a difference between member and guest pricing, and we'll talk about that later. But you can see that most of the time there are a bunch of them that Buzztouch has created. You can see David's name. David is the person that started Buzztouch. and he created about 20, I think, plugins that you can use in your app. And then in addition to that are just dozens and dozens more by our own users. And some of them, like I said, they're a couple bucks. Some of them are a little bit more money. But I don't want you to get caught up in worrying about how much something costs just yet, because for all intents and purposes, you can use all the free plugins and learn how to use Buzztouch, see if it's going to be a good solution for you, and then make the decisions down the road if you want to spend. And when I say spend, I really mean invest a couple more dollars into making your app, that much better. And there are some really impressive plugins that are happening and showing up in our market all the time. So we'll talk more about plugins again later, also when we talk about the membership model. So never be stuck with the same cookie cutter screens again. Just think about an app that you started today and while you're learning how to use Buzztouch, and then by the time you figure everything out and you're ready to add more, there'll be even more plugins in the market by that time than they are right now when we're talking today. So that's going to lead us up to our first question break. Any questions so far on what Buzztouch is and how it works so far? The next step we're going to be taking is actually going in and playing around with our account.
If anybody has any questions and they want to use their mic, you can hit your little raise your hand icon, and we can unmute your mic, or you can type it in the question box quick. I see reps up. I believe I answered his question with the installation of Eclipse, and we could talk a little bit more about that later. We'll get into more technical stuff as we go. And also extracting the files from the Android SDK. I'll answer that in privately, and then we can discuss that more later. But if there's any other questions pertaining to what exactly is Buzztouch or any of that kind of stuff, everyone's free to jump in and ask a question. Up here's wraps up. You there, buddy?
Well, I saw we were talking about I think we were talking about like the applications and stuff, and I was wondering if it was possible to make games with Buzztouch.
Games right now, there's no plugins that are pre-made for games, but I've seen people make games before, and one of the things that I said was that there's no limit to what you can do. So that's really the best answer. It just depends on your skill. There's nothing built in right now. I know some of the people are trying to work on some different game type plugins, but there's no game plugins currently.
Yeah, no plugins to easily make like a running and shooting type game. There's like a tic-tac-toe game, I believe, in the plugin market. But I would get comfy with Buzztouch, download your source code, and get used to looking at the code, and maybe ask some questions on the forums. You might find some help to take your project even farther. Does that help you? You still there, Rep?
Yeah, I'm gonna go get the charger for.
Okay, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, and if
And wait, here's one from Colin D. Are you guys affiliated with any third-party plugin sites?
I'm not familiar with any third-party plugin sites. Obviously, if there's anything that there's a lot of different places where you can get snippets of code for the different programming languages. Anything that you can get that way, you can bring into a Buzztouch project and add it kind of as a plugin. That's one of the things that we'll talk about later is when you want to create a plugin, you can create a plugin that you're not intending to sell, you're just using for your own apps. So that's one way I've seen people take from either GitHub or from some of the code sharing sites where they can just get a sample project and rip out a couple pieces of it and put it into their own Buzztouch project.
So hopefully that answers your question, Colin. All right, I guess moving on. I don't see any other questions or hands up.
Okay, and if a question pops up while you're thinking about it, just go ahead and type it in, and at the next break we'll address it. Sometimes you can't type them as fast as we answer them, and that's fine.
Right.
So I'll continue on here. So the next section here is where do I start? So obviously you guys have you found Buzztouch. That's the first step. You've registered there, given us your email address, and get the little confirmation email, and you've created your account. So now you're ready to do some more. So here's a couple different things in the account menu that we like to look at. Is the public profile, the developer profile, and then the email settings. And those are really just things that you set up once to your preferences, and then you really don't have to worry about them. So let me just breeze through those real quick. In the website, anytime you want to go to your account menu, you just click on your name up here in the upper right hand corner. That brings you to your main account menu. And along the side here is where we can make some of our changes. So public profile was the first one I talked about. And there you can give a screen name for the form. Just add that. Give a little tagline here out of the choice. You can add a avatar icon, and then you can just type in some other things about your location, a little welcome message that will show up when people click on your account to see who you are. And then your option here to either allow private messages from other users or disallow them. So that's just the simple kind of public profile. A developer profile is one that you can set up a little bit later if you end up being a developer, or if you've come here already with some skills. You can set up kind of your profile that other people would see with your websites, your Twitter, and another description about maybe what kind of development you do, some list of your skills, experience, different languages that you speak. And then if you do have an hourly rate, maybe you're here to maybe drum up some business for yourself and help out some other Buzztouch members by doing some coding for them, then you can actually negotiate that. We don't barter anything on your behalf. That's all obviously all person to person bartering, but we like to see when people are able to help each other. If you get rewarded for it, then that's great too. And then the last one here was email settings. And that's just a simple list of different things that you can say. If you can opt out of all emails or allow emails when a forum post that you're subscribed to gets replied to. So if you've asked a question in the forums, then obviously you want to be able to know when somebody's answered it as soon as possible. So just set up those email settings the way that you want. The next thing here was visit the forum and introduce yourself. I'm going to pop back to the forum and show you what I mean there. One of the forum topics here, or one of the forum groups here, is introduce yourself. And it's always nice to just come in here after you've got your account set up and you've got your profile set up, and just type in a quick topic and tell us who you are, why you're here, what you're trying to do, and you'll be surprised as how many warm welcomes you get right away, and people that are in the same shoes as you saying that they've just started and they're trying to learn how to do this, and they've got an idea for an app, or their company wants them to make an app for them. And we just like to hear your stories and share that story with other other members. Excuse me. And then the next topic here is taking the Buzztouch learning path. So the Buzztouch learning path is going to be a series of kind of tutorial videos with kind of questions in them, and you can find those at the website. If you go into your account menu and right here at Buzztouch U, you can see that there are currently 3 learning paths: the Buzztouch, the iOS, and the Android. But the Buzztouch is the one that I'm talking about right now. There's 5 lessons. You learn kind of some of the background information about your control panel, some of the same stuff that we're going to talk about tonight. But it only takes about 30 minutes total. When you do complete all of those lessons, and you get a star. And if we go back to the forum and start looking at some of these people in here, here's Ian. You can see Ian's got all 3 stars for all 3 learning paths. And that's just so that we can kind of tell that, yes, you've taken the time and you've invested your 32 minutes into taking the Buzztouch learning path, and at least taking that step to get your questions answered first. And then the how-tos page. This is a growing list of tutorials that we have on the site, either created by ourselves or created by some of the members. And if we look at that, you can see that it's an impressive list here broken down into self-hosted, which we'll talk about later, iOS or Android kind of Buzztouch tutorials, and then separated to Apple or iOS and then Android devices. And you can see that's a growing list of different tutorials on different things by different members. So anytime we like to say anytime you have a question or you get to a stumbling point in your project, always check here first to see if someone's typed up a step-by-step on it, because the step-by-step tutorials that we have in here that the members have created are pretty thorough and pretty impressive, really. And if you don't find a tutorial in here, then visit the forums and ask a question, and then get that question answered right away.
Carla just had a good question. What are the points for when you go through the tutorials? And I guess uh, you did answer that, but while you're on that subject of the BTU, the Buzztouch Learning Path, that the stars also help other members know where you're at in your learning so they can answer your questions more efficiently. So it's another good reason to have stars under your name.
Right, and then if you're asking about these points here, those points are, there's a whole page on here that kind of describes it. It's kind of a mysterious thing that you get some points for doing the BTU, you get some points for each post that you make in the forums. If you do create a tutorial and submit it to us, and we think that it's going to be a great addition to the how-tos, then you get rewarded some points. And in the past, points have been used to kind of judge how helpful you've been in the community, and there's been some rewards along the way for different people. Nothing set in stone, as it's not something like Coca-Cola points where you can cash in 1,000 of them and get a Buzztouch sticker or something like that. Maybe that'll come down the road, but it's just a good way to keep track of how engaged you are in the community. Good question. So that leads us up to making our first app. So I'm going to go through all the different steps to create our first app and add some screens to it and get it running. And this is kind of the steps I'm going to be taking. I'm going to create the app in the control panel. I'm going to add a few screens. I'm going to download the source code. I'm going to open that source code in my compiler, and in this webinar, we're going to be using the Apple compiler. We're going to be using Xcode to create an iPhone application. The same steps would be made for Android, just different software. We're going to launch it in the simulator and see it work, and then maybe make a couple changes to it and see how you can dynamically change your app from the control panel. And really, that's all it takes to get you hooked. Once you see how quick and easy it is, that's kind of the aha moment that we usually see people get to, is when they can get something that they've created running on either their simulator or running on their phone. Then they just get hooked, and they don't sleep for months and months like the picture shows. So I'm gonna log into the control panel again and create that first app. I'm gonna download the source code. So back at the Buzztouch website, I'm gonna go to my account menu, and up here at the top is my list of applications. So I'm going to create a new app for this by clicking on the new app. And really, I just have to give it a name. So I'm going to call it New User Demo. I'm going to agree to the terms and conditions and promise that I'm not going to include any content in the app that may be copyrighted. Those are all just normal legal mumbo jumbo. And it's going to add that application or project to my control panel, and then allow me to either go back to the list or continue on to the control panel itself. So this is the kind of the main screen, the main control panel screen for any application. And once you get into this screen, this is where you have links to add all the different content to your app and download the source code and make all your changes. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to download the source code. Once I do that, I just prepare either the Android project or the iOS project. So I told it to prepare an iOS project for me. It's going to compile it together. Then it's going to tell me it's ready to download. So I'm going to download the zip file. I'm going to open up that zip file and unzip it. And you can see I've got all the files right in here. And one of the files is going to be this new user demo.xcode project. And that's going to be the file that you actually create or actually run in Xcode that includes all the source code. Now there is an instructions PDF here that will be in your iOS or your Android download. And that instruction file is very helpful. It shows you how to open it up in Xcode, and we'll have to drag a couple folders in. And then once we drag the folders in, we're going to select the simulator and then run the project. So if this is your first time actually doing this, or if you decide to tackle this after you watch this webinar, then just make sure you do read these instructions so you don't skip any of the steps that I might just kind of breeze through. So I've downloaded my source file. I'm going to go back to my new user demo control panel here because we're going to have to add some screens. And before we do that, I'm going to actually open up this Xcode project. And this is the first time I've opened this one here tonight, so Xcode might take a couple seconds to actually launch and get it running. But I'm actually going to get it running, and right now it's just a blank, really just a blank application. And I want to show you that it will run right away, I hope. and then we're going to start adding some content to it. So the first time you open up a project, it's got to go through and index a couple things. I'm going to take the steps that were in my instructions PDF and add a couple folders in here. And I've just happened to kind of memorize the different folders. Sorry about my other clutter going on here. Usually I close all these down before I get started. So the main important one is the plugins folder. I'm going to grab a couple other ones here. And this is all listed in your instructions file. Now that I've got those in there, you can see that this plugins one is the important one. It's got all the plugins that were in my control panel. And you can see that I've got all the source code for all these files. All the source code is that stuff that we were talking about earlier, saying that you get to download it and keep it. I think the last estimate I heard was about 20,000 lines of code that are typed up in all these files here. That's 20,000 lines of code that you don't have to type yourself. So that's why we talked about how some developers are coming to Buzztouch just to kind of jumpstart the app creation process, even if they know how to do all this stuff themselves. This is definitely a good head start for even experienced people. So let me see if I can run this iPhone simulator. And the first time you run, it does have to go through and compile everything. That just means that it's crunching all the code and creating one master file to load onto your phone, and that becomes the application itself. So it just kind of takes all the lines of code, crunches it together, and then makes one kind of executable file that the phone knows what to do with. And now my simulator is about to load up, and if all goes well, then we'll see a kind of just a blank screen app that we'll start building upon. All right, while that's working, I'm going to go back to the control panel. Actually, I did have a technical difficulty with this computer last night, and I don't know if it got resolved. So I'm going to go into the control panel and start adding some screens. If that ends up working, good. If not, Ian,
Yep.
you are
Actually,
able to get
uh,
one running?
um, download your project that you just created.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just in case my
Yeah.
there's something wrong with my Xcode I think I found last night. But I'm going to start adding the screens, and if you want to, while I'm doing this, download and get the app running on your side, we can switch screens here in a second.
Cool.
All right, so back in our main control panel for this new user demo, you can see I have no icon yet. One of the first things that you could usually do if you had an icon ready is click on the app icon, and you give it a JPEG or a PNG file, and you upload to it. And then you would normally do that before you download the source code, because the source code is going to, I'll show you here in the images art. It would package these for you, and you'll see the one that it has right here is just the default one that Buzztouch uses. So if you had uploaded one in your control panel before you had downloaded, it would actually resize all these icons to the size that you need. So it's actually a pretty helpful thing. Since we skipped that, it's just going to show this as our default icon. So back here, core properties is the next thing that you would look at. And this is some of the stuff that you don't need to necessarily change right away. The project name already got kind of created for you. When I typed in new user demo, it just created a project name without any spaces in it. Some of this other stuff you wouldn't have to change unless you wanted to for a specific reason. So we're not going to worry about that right now. One of the main settings that you might need to change is if you wanted to allow or prevent rotation. Depending on the style app that you're creating, you might want to not let the views rotate when people turn their phones sideways. But those are just settings that are kind of advanced settings that they're already set up for you. If you need to change any of them, then you can always go into the core settings and change them. So we looked at the app icon, we looked at the core properties. The layout we're going to change later. The layout is basically how the app looks, how the screens start, whether it's what we call a tabbed layout or a non-tabbed layout. So once we have an app loaded, that will make more sense. And then themes is another thing it's more of an advanced thing that you can change. If you wanted to change like the background color on all your screens at once, then you can do that just in one place here instead of having to change it in each individual screen. But we're really going to start here in the screens and actions. So this would be the list of my screens, and the very first one that it starts you off with default is just a home screen menu, and that's just a what they call a menu list simple, or a simple menu list. And it's just a menu that starts off that you can start adding other content to. So in this example, I'm going to create. I usually like to create an application that's kind of like a city guide. So let's pretend that we wanted to make an application about Miami. So some of the things that I'd think about that I wanted to add into this app would be maybe a list of restaurants, places to eat, a list of attractions or things to see, and then maybe the different sports teams for Miami. So I'm going to start off by keeping this main menu here, and I'm going to start adding screens to it. So the different screens I'm going to add one that's called, let's call it maybe places to eat. And I'm going to make that also a menu simple, or another list menu, because I'm going to have different things on that to add. I'm going to make another one called maybe, let's say, things to see for my attractions. I'm going to call that a menu simple also. And maybe sports teams. We'll make that a menu simple also. So now when I click back on my screens menu up here, you can see I've got my home screen menu, and then I've got these three sub menus that I'm going to start to populate also: places to eat, things to see, and then sports teams. So now I'm going to create some what I call content screens, or the actual things that you want people to interact with, and I'm going to create one for each of these. So for this, the simplest type of content screen to make is going to be like a web link or a URL. So when we look at our plugin types here, and these are all the plugins that come built in when you start as a guest. As you start to, if you start to purchase any of the plugins in the plugin market, then this list continues to grow. So I'm gonna create one called a custom URL, which just basically means a website. So this is gonna link us to a website. And let's say for my my places to eat, there's a restaurant called the Palm in Miami, very famous. So I'm gonna call that one the Palm. For my places to visit, I'm gonna have one for the Miami Metro Zoo. That's going to be a custom URL or a website also. And then for sports teams, let's go with Miami Heat. And that's going to be a custom URL or a website. So go back to my screens page here, and you can see I still got my 4 menus, and now I've got 3 content screens. So now it's time to link everything together and kind of customize it a little bit. So I'm going to start off by linking the 3 submenus to my main menu. So to do that, I'm just going to go into my main menu here. And menus have what they call row items in this case. And if I look at the sample screenshot here, this is just a simple menu with just some rows. So all these items are just different rows, and each one can have a label, and each one gets linked to another screen. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to give it a label or a row title. So the first one I said was places to eat. And I'm going to select what screen I want it to go to when I tap on it. So I can either type it in if I remembered what I named it, or I can use my picker, my screen picker here, and I can name that screen places to eat. Nice and easy to remember. And I'm going to add that. So you can see I've got now 1 row in the list. I'm going to add my other 2 now. So the next one was things to see. And I'll select that screen also for my picker. That was also called things to see. And the last one was sports teams. And I remembered, I'll show you that you can just type it in if you remember what it is. And if you get it wrong, it'll just give you an error, and then you can use the picker if you want. And I'll click add there. So now I've got my 3 rows here. Now I'm going to go back to my screens. I know that I have my home menu here linked to my 3 submenus. Now I'm going to link my content to each of my menus. So I'm going to start with the places to eat first. I see that I have no rows in there yet. So I remembered that the first dining place I wanted to list was called the Palm. I'll select that content screen from here. Now that's done. If I had a dozen more restaurants, I would just do the same way. I would just add them in as I add the screens. Go back here, click on things to see. I'm going to add my Miami Metro Zoo. If I remember right, that's what it was called. And there it is. And the last one will be my sports teams. I'll add the Miami Heat. How you coming with that, Ian?
Yeah, I have it running. I just won't have any
Yeah, okay.
embedded images if you were going to use those or not, but
Okay, that's cool.
cool.
All right, so now I've got my screens created, and now I've got my submenus listed onto my main menu. I've got my 3 content screens linked onto the appropriate submenus. And the last thing I'm going to do real quick is go into these last content screens, and we haven't really told them where to go yet. So this is just a real easy step for each of these. I'm going to click on the palm first, and we can change a lot of the appearance of how the thing works, but we're just going to change this right here, the document web address, and all these just default to Google. So if we were running the app, it would just go to the Google website. But I'm just going to make that one go to the palm.com and save that. I'll do the same thing for my other two content screens, and this is the Miami Metro Zoo. And the last one should be the Miami Heat. And that's that. There's going to be some advanced things that we're going to change to them, but for right now, I'm going to see if Ian can go ahead and take control of the screen and bring up the app and show you how everything has gotten in there.
Yep, give me 1 second while I switch these presenters here.
Sure.
So can everyone see my orange screen with all my cluttered desktop? You seeing my screen, Chris? I'm not hearing your voice, so.
Ooh, nope.
Oh.
I don't see. Oh, yes, I do.
Cool. Alrighty, so I'm going to pick up where Chris left off. I got my cluttered desktop, but all I did was download the project that he created. And right here, you see the new user demo right here. And I opened it up. I clicked on the Xcode icon. Xcode popped open. I dragged in my plugins folder. And now all I'm going to do is hit run on this thing. See our simulator launch. It's coming. And there we see our simulator up. Now I'm going to go back to the Buzztouch website really quick, just to look at this control panel that he just made, that he was just in. And we see all these screens that Chris was, you can see all the list of screens here. Chris was basically building the app in the Buzztouch control panel. And he made all kinds of changes to the home screen, gave it some properties here, places to eat, things to see. So what we're going to see here is we're going to go back to the simulator, and it's asking me, do I want to refresh these changes? And now when this pops up, you can either hit yes, or you can hit this little refresh button in the corner. I'm going to go ahead and hit yes, and see if we see these changes that Chris made dynamically on the fly. And there it is. Aha! Now we see how this is all coming together. The changes you make in your Buzztouch control panel pop up here right in your app. So we can click on here. Here's the Palm. And it's loading the website for the Palm restaurant that he wanted to see. So we see it's working beautifully. Things are starting to take shape here. We can go to the Metro Zoo, load in that screen. Sports teams, Miami Heat, not a bad team. So cool. Now we see that we call those dynamic changes, all these on the fly refreshing. It's pretty cool. Now, do we want to make any other changes right now, Chris, or do we want to entertain some questions before we?
Actually, I believe I got mine working now.
Oh, cool. Do you want to swap screens really quick, or try that that way?
Yeah. We can confuse the heck out of everybody.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. So let me go back to my screens here. You can see I'm seeing the same thing that Ian had. You can see that, Ian?
Yep. All good.
Simulator?
Yep.
Okay.
Looks just like mine.
So one thing I'm going to do real quick is before I take any questions is just make this thing a little bit prettier. So this is going to be one of the things that we didn't do is we added the row items into my list menu, but I didn't do anything else with the list menu. And let's go back to this home screen menu, and we're going to change a couple things. So you can see all these advanced properties here that we haven't expanded yet. We just looked at the row items, which really just fleshes out the app and to get it into the right structure. Now we're going to make it look a little bit prettier. So I'm going to look at this top navigation bar real quick, and you see the top navigation bar, the nav title just says home, and I'm pretty sure Apple would reject anything that just looked that generic. So I'm going to call this, let me call it just Visit Miami. I'm going to hit save on that. And to see that change, I really have to just come back here to the simulator, click my refresh button, and now that change is made. So let's make it a little bit prettier. We're going to continue to scroll down here. How about list layout and color? So we've got the row background colors, the font colors. I'm going to put a background image behind it so I don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to look at the row background color first. And that just means right now we're just seeing white as the background for everything. Let me see if there's a decent, how about like a coral type color here? That's very Miami-ish. We'll look at that. The other thing I'm going to change, let me hit save on that. Refresh, make sure it took. All right, so I've got that going on. I'm going to change the list style here. Right now it's defaulted to the square corners. I'm going to make it rounded. Save that, show you what that looks like. So now you can see the rounded corners on this. It makes it look more like an iPhone app. And I'm going to go down here to the screen background image. And for me to do this, I'm going to have to give it an image file name or an image URL. So I could do it either way. If I gave it an image file name, then I would type in the name of the file, whatever it was, .jpeg, and I would have to copy that into my Xcode project and compile it. And that's what I normally do. But we're going to use an image URL so that if maybe a month later I wanted to change the background image and maybe make it look more summary or something, then I can change that without having to copy another file into the bundle. So I had found this image here that I wanted to use. I'm going to copy this URL and go back to here, paste that in there and hit save. So now when I refresh, here's the background image that I just found, and it's saved on there. If I wanted to change that later, I'd just have to log into my control panel, change that image. Maybe I found a better one or one that suited the app better, and then I can make that change. The last thing I'm going to change real quick, just because it's kind of bothering me, is the background color up here. It just looks too generic, too stock. So if I go back up to here where it says top navigation bar, here's the navigation background color. And let's maybe select that same, let's go with like a yellow. See how ugly we can make that look. Hit save and refresh. And yeah, that's pretty ugly, but it's not stock anymore. So that brings us up to a good stopping point for questions, if anybody has any about the.
Carla did. I think we answered it during the presentation, but just to clarify, this is a really good question. She said, do you create the app in Xcode, bringing in plugins from Buzztouch, or do you create the app in Buzztouch and then convert the finished project into an app in Xcode? And the latter is correct. You create the app in Buzztouch, you download your source code, and then convert that source code into your finished project using Xcode. So really, really good question.
Very good. I had to get rid of that yellow.
I wasn't going to say anything, but
it was too crazy.
And then we've got one from Brian. Here's another good question, and it's a little more advanced topic, but we're on the subject of plugins here. He's asking, how difficult difficult is it to submit a plugin? And is there a Q&A process like the App Store, for example?
Okay.
And let me see if Brian's here, and I'll unmute your mic, Brian, if you'd like to speak. If not, I don't see him.
Hey, good evening.
Oh, there you are.
Hey, Brian.
All right, good evening, all.
Good, we can hear you.
Yeah, basically, that's my question. I'm very interested in creating plugins because I see the great plugins that have been created so far, and I would love to add on. So I'm curious about that process.
Okay. The the process involves we've got like a checklist, and Susan, who's on our team, let me just bring up Susan's picture here real quick. Susan is the plugin market kind of guru right now. So she's put together a checklist that involves the proper ways to name files and how to package them up and get all the right type of files and the icons and all the configuration files right. And you get that, added to the actual code that you type in, for your plugin, whether it's for Android or whether it's for iOS or for both. And once you package all that together, then you submit it, and she reviews through and makes sure that all of the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, that everything on her checklist is kind of followed. And if not, then she'll just kick it back and say, hey, can you fix this? And then you just resubmit it. And once everything's kind of accepted, then it goes through a kind of a neat process where David reviews through the code. David, our fearless leader here, he can eat, breathe, and drink and sleep code. So he reviews through the code to make sure that everything's going to work properly and everything would be, I guess, conform to Apple and Android, so that nobody would be downloading a plugin that would be breaking any of their rules. And just make sure that the code is all optimized. And once he gives it the stamp of approval, then you throw it into the market and add your price to it and description, and that's about it. So it's sometimes it can be a lengthy process depending on how many plugins are in the queue, but it's not terribly difficult. Is there anything specific you wanted to ask about the process?
Understood. Makes sense.
All right.
No, it makes sense. I just want to put out code, and people have problems with it, and you get a lot of complaints. So I would definitely appreciate that Q&A time period.
Right, and that's really the main reason, to try to find any errors beforehand. And I think actually part of the process, Susan really highly suggests that you you hand your plugin to like a couple other of the plugin developers that have been doing this for a while, and they'll test it through their projects and make sure that it doesn't crash or make sure that it works good. And those same people are willing to help and help you get it all set and ready to go.
Yeah, good question.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
no
great.
problem. And we've got another question from going back to Carla's original question that you create your project on Buzztouch and then use Xcode to put it all together to actually make it look like an app. And she says, once this is done, if you keep Xcode open and if you keep Buzztouch open, it automatically populates. Is this correct? And that is correct. That's exactly what you saw tonight, was the app refreshing the Xcode simulator, refreshing the changes that were made on your Buzztouch control panel.
Right.
Very cool.
And to even kind of drive that home, when we first opened this up into Xcode and I dragged in the folders and I hit run, that was all I did in Xcode. I didn't do anything else. Everything else was done at the website, and I just kept on refreshing the simulator itself. If I did want to add this picture in, then yes, I would have to drag it into a folder here and then rerun it. But really all the configuration, everything that we did here to get it from the white blank screen to what it looks like now was all done at Buzztouch. Nothing was done at in Xcode except for just clicking the run button. So that's kind of impressive in itself, and that's why I latched onto Buzztouch early on, because I knew like nothing about what all this stuff in this code meant, and I tried to learn it, but I couldn't, first thing. But I was stubborn. I wanted to get an app running, so this system just worked right out of the gate, and it's been working ever since. So yes, good question.
Yeah, cool. And now we have another question from our buddy Rapsep. He's asking, are you working on making it possible to do iOS stuff on Windows? So basically, BuzzTouch is focused right now on iOS, which is Apple, and Android applications. There's some talk in the future of making Windows, unless the only other thing I'm wondering on Windows phones, unless you're asking, is iOS, can you build on a Windows machine? I'm not sure, maybe if that's what you're asking as well. And I guess it can be done, but it is pretty difficult to set up Xcode to run on a Windows machine, if that's what you're asking. So hopefully I made sense with that statement.
Right. We get a lot of questions in the forums about being able to run Xcode and compile iPhone apps on PCs, and most of it's for the very glaring reason of everybody's got a PC, and maybe they don't have a Mac that they want to invest thousands of dollars into. And so the question of creating a Hackintosh comes up about hacking a PC to run Mac OS X, and sometimes those questions get answered and referred to other websites that deal with that. Our recommendation is always, I'd much rather. I tried the same thing. I tried to get a Hackintosh working. For me, it was better to just find keep my patience and find a $200 old MacBook on Craigslist and just invest my money that way. And I've upgraded along the way, but that was enough to get me going at least.
Yeah, I would say we would recommend having a Mac to build iOS apps at this point.
Right.
And we've got so good stuff wraps up. And we've got another, actually, it's a cool tip actually from Brian. He said, please give them the heads up regarding the config.txt file. A lot of newbies, myself included, forget to update before submitting to the app stores. So that might be
Okay.
something we could show them that really quick. That's a really, really good point, Brian. Let's look at that really quick.
Yeah, and I actually did that kind of behind the scenes while we were switching
Right.
back and forth from computers. But what he's talking about is when everything, kind of the magic that happens with Buzztouch, all happens in what's called the config text. So let me go back to my application here in my control panel. And if you've noticed, as I was going through my screens, I'll show you that real quick. And oops, yeah, I can show you. Let me go back. When I was changing my home screen menu, every time I went and changed like the background color or something and I hit saved, you could see all this JSON data, which may mean nothing to you, but it got updated, and any time we changed anything in here, that would get updated. Well, each screen has its own what we call JSON, which is just some code that makes the screen look the way it looks. And when you put all those screens together, then you get this full big file, which is the full config text for the whole app. So this right here contains all of my screens. You can see my sports teams, things to see, places to eat. Those are my three menus. Then down here is my content screens, places to eat, the Palm, things to see, the zoo, and sports teams, Miami Heat. So all the screens that we created, all those little blurbs of code get compiled into this one big file here. Now, when I first downloaded the config or the source code, this would have been a lot more empty. It would have just had one screen in it. So what Xcode would have seen in here, and I think I might be able to just, there we go. I just did a undo my paste. So this is what started in there. And really the only screen I have, you see this BT screens, was this home screen menu. And that was all it had when I downloaded it. Now as I added things to it, you can see that it obviously got bigger. So before I compiled it, and I didn't have to do this, but I did it just out of habit, I came into here and selected everything, copied it, then went into Xcode, and then selected this and pasted on top of it, just so that this matches the control panel. And when I hit run on that, then everything looked just fine. There was no difference between this config text, which is the magic code that makes this thing look the way it looks, and the one on the control panel. Now if I was to go now and add another screen or change a background color of something, then there would be a difference. And if this was a live app, if this was actually compiled and in the store and people have purchased it or downloaded it, then they would get that little question, hey, there's something new, do you want to update it? And you say yes. But before you send something to the store, when you get to the point that you want to submit this app to either Apple or to Android to Google Play Market, the last step that you want to do before you actually compile it is do what I just did. Take the most recent, most complete config text out of your control panel, paste it into the config text, and it's right here in my BT config folder. Paste it over the top of this so that when I compile this, when I actually package this up and send it off to the store, and that's the file that people will download when they buy my app, then it is the most recent. And when this is very important, when Apple goes to review the app, they don't get that screen saying, hey, there's something new. They get the completed app. If we were to take this file and do this to it and recompile it, and it may work, it may not, I might have to delete it. No, yeah, it noticed that it was different. But if I was to, let's do it real quick. I'm just going to delete the app off my screen, off my device here. I'm going to recompile it. This is what Apple's going to see. And if Apple sees this, they will reject it right away. So because I didn't have the most recent, and really all they'd have to do is click that, and it would work again. But because I didn't have a good config text in here, I had this empty one, then that's what they're going to see. And you don't want that to happen, because even if they did approve it and it went out to the store, then everybody that downloaded your app would get that same white screen, and they'd have to refresh to get your actual app. You want them to download what you consider to be complete, and then if you make changes down the road, then you make changes to the completed app, not to an empty app. So very good tip. That is really, I've done it 100 times, and every now and then I forget to do it, and I compile it, and I realize I made a mistake, and I have to go back and do it again. But when you get to that point, just try to remember that step.
Yeah, really good heads up, Brian. Thank you. Cool. I don't see any other questions. If anyone wants to speak, you can raise your hand, and I'll unmute your mic, or we've got a few other topics we'd like to get to tonight, really quick, before we got about 15 minutes or so, but we won't leave until we answer all the questions too. So let's move on with the presentation, and anyone can feel free to ask questions as we go along.
Alrighty. This next little slide here is just a reminder that if you're going to be developing apps for iOS, and we kind of talked about this, then you really need an Intel-based Mac. But you don't really need that to start. You can start using Buzztouch and create your apps and get them all going, and then worry about actually compiling them later after you got something finished. Or I've heard some members that have gone on to Fiverr and paid $5 for somebody to compile their app for them. I've heard of people just bringing their project over to their friend's house and using their Mac to compile it for them. But down the road, eventually you do need to have a Macintosh to compile iPhone apps. If you're going to compile for Android, then you can do that on a Windows-based computer, or you can do it on a Mac computer. So that's basically just the heads up on that. All right, so wanted to talk about the membership modeling real quick, just to explain what it is between a guest and a member. And this isn't a sales pitch by any means. I'm not a salesperson. Ian isn't a salesperson. We just want to educate you as to what the differences are and what the benefits are, and let you guys make your decision as the time comes if you want to do so. So starting at the beginning of this year, January 1st, we changed our membership model to something very simple. You're either a guest or you're a member, and we welcome you either way, but there are some advantages between the two models. So if you are a guest, if you have signed up and you haven't paid us a penny, then you can create up to 3 apps in your Buzztouch hosted control panel. You can keep all the source code just like I just showed you, and everything that I've been doing in this presentation, you can see that I'm just logged in as Joe Guest, and from my main account menu you can see that I am a Buzztouch guest. So this is, a free account basically. So there's no restrictions on keeping the source code. Everything I did you can do as well as a guest. You have access to the forum to ask your questions and to get answers. You have access to make purchases in the plugin market, and we did describe how there is a difference in price in the plugin market between a guest and a member. So you can see that is going to be one of the benefits of being a member. And then you can attend public webinars like this one. Anything that's a public webinar, you're obviously invited to attend. And then select live events. When we have live events, sometimes there may be a members only type of event, and sometimes there's just a, hey, anybody that wants to come can come type event. So we've always wanted someone to come here, log in, create their account, be a guest, be our guest on our website, and really explore and create an app, and do everything that you can to find out if this system is going to work for you and really succeed. And there's several people that have done just that and have created great apps out of their first 3 apps and submitted them to the store and have been successful. The upgraded price of being a member gets you some benefits. The first one being that you get to have 50 apps in your Buzztouch hosted control panel. So if you've created your 3 and you're liking it and you want to just create more, the easiest way is obviously just to become a member, and then you get access to 50 apps to create. The other advantage is being able to download a self-hosted software, what we call the self-hosted control panel. What that is basically it's a very similar version of what you saw on buzztouch.com, but you can run on your own website. If you do that, if you have your own server, if you have your own website, then you can create as many apps as you want, because you're kind of in control of your own little control panel at that point. You can create logins for your friends or colleagues, and they can log in and they can create apps on your website. I've seen situations where maybe a high school teacher wanted to have all 30 of his technology students use the same system, so he just creates a self-hosted server and then lets everybody create their own apps on that server, so he has kind of control over it. So that's part of the self-hosted software. It's more for advanced reasons. There's obviously benefits to it, but if you're not ready to go into that, then just continue to create your apps on the Buzztouch site like we were tonight. Same benefit, keeping the source code, whether you're a guest or a member, that's yours to keep. One of the things that we added was a push notification service. There's been a couple different services out there, third-party services that can give you push notifications. Basically, if you wanted to send a message out to your app users, like you've seen before, hey, there's a new version, click here to upgrade, or hey, we've got a new app in the store, check it out. Then instead of sending you out to a third party to learn how to integrate their code into your app at Buzztouch, we just decided to make our own code and make our own push server, and that's one of the benefits that you get for being a member as well. Another distinguishing factor between guest and membership is that not only can you buy the plugins in the plugin market, and you do get a discount for being a member, but you can also create and sell your own plugins. So the ability to create a plugin is a member privilege. And there are obviously a lot of members who are creating plugins and making a lot more money from selling the plugins than their membership ever cost them, and I think that's great. If you create something that's useful to people, I guarantee they'll buy it, and you'll get your money back right quick. Then there's going to be exclusive member-only webinars, a lot of tutorial-based, advanced topics maybe, and question and answer sessions with David that are member-only. And you can see those if you look in your control panel. You can see the list of webinars right here. And you'll see how some of them are listed as public and some of them are listed as private. See, anyone here with a member badge on it is going to be private or a members only one. And then ones without that, like our webinar tonight, the new user one, is just open to the public. And then the member badge in the forum. If you notice when we looked at some of the forum posts, you'll see that Mr. David is a member, Absentia is a member, and that's just a little badge so that you can kind of show off that you are a member, and whether it makes people respect you more, we don't know. Maybe people will answer your questions quicker or just make you feel like you're part of the team. It's just your way of showing that you've supported our platform by upgrading your membership. And then any other member-only improvements that we add along the way, any other features that we decide are going to be members-only features, or if we decide to make a plugin that is an exclusive plugin to members, then you get kind of grandfathered into all those new benefits by being a member. So is there any questions about the differences between members or members and guests?
Brian has a question about self-hosting.
Okay.
And I'll unmute his mic. I'll read his question too, but I'll unmute if Brian wants to talk. But I'll read his question first as well. He's asking, with self-hosting, am I the super admin and create guest member accounts? I ask in case I want someone to have only access to certain apps.
Okay.
And if you want to take this, Chris. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the best answer to that is if you have your own server, and you can certainly create your own user accounts. So in the example of the school teacher, he could create an account for each individual kid, and then each kid can see only their app. There's nothing built into the self-hosting control panel that allows you to create different membership levels, like actually charging. That's something that you'd have to figure out yourself. But is that kind of answer your question?
You were kind of breaking up at the end, but the reason I ask is I want to have certain clients, and I want to put them all on my server, but I don't want them obviously to see other people's apps. So I give them, like, I guess, a guest account where they can only create 1 or 2 or 3 apps, or something similar to the initial setup for Buzztouch.
Right, exactly. So that's exactly what you want to do. When you have your own server, you have the ability to create user accounts. So for each client, you'd create an account for them so that they can log in and make the changes to their app if they want to make updates to it or add more content. That's obviously a benefit to you, that you don't have to do it for them. And they will only be able to see the apps that are in their account.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's exactly it.
Perfect. And I see a lot of people, I've talked to a lot of people that are doing that for clients, and it works out perfectly for them. Good question.
Yeah, really good. I don't see any other questions at this point. Yeah, I don't see any other questions in the queue, and no hands up.
Okay. I didn't, I'm such a horrible salesperson that I didn't even visit the pricing page to show you what it actually costs.
We just want to make stuff. I don't know.
Right, yeah. Yeah. So this is on the pricing page. You can see the difference, kind of sums up the difference between a guest and a member. And we are running a promotion right now. Normally it's $80 per year, which is really cheap, compared to some other solutions. And for what you get, we like to think that it's really very affordable and worthwhile. But the promotion going on right now, if you upgrade, there's a place to put a promo code. If you put in million, then you get the thing for $49.99. Now, normally with these new user webinars, we like to reward you for sitting through this 90 minutes and listening to Chris babble on about different things and have technical difficulties with his Xcode. So we like to reward you by giving you a promo code that works for just attending this event. And as explained by David, he said that if you use a promo code that gives you what we normally give is a certain dollars off, that it's going to be in addition to this right here. So if all works well, I'm going to create a promo code for you, and let me just change this. That's the old one. We're going to call it Go Heat, since we were talking about Miami. And we're going to let that expire 2 weeks from tonight. So tonight's 8. Sorry for doing this right in front of your eyes, but I didn't get to set this up beforehand. So that would be 14/22, 5/22. And if it works as planned, this is going to be a $10 off promotion. So you should be able to get this for $39.99 per year. That's the way it was explained to me. I have no way to test that. But that's what we're going to go with. If you type in Go Heat into the thing and it doesn't come up as saying $39.99, then please contact myself or Ian, and we'll get with David and find out what it's going to take to do that. So really, that would bring us down to what, $39.99, which is half the normal price, and that's for a full 12 months. And like I said, that's just our way of thanking you for taking the time to learn more about Buzztouch and get a jump start on making your apps and hopefully answer questions along the way.
Cool. And that 39 would be recurring each year if they decided to continue? That would be their locked-in price?
I believe the last thing I heard was that this is a one-time promotion, so if you renew, then it would be at whatever the renewal rate is.
Right.
But really and honestly, if the $40 works for you for the first year, and you're successful with this, then everybody else that's been using this for a year, that there's there's no amount of money that they would not pay to keep using Buzztouch.
Yeah.
That's what we hear, and that would be my answer as well. So any other questions? The only thing left that we usually talk about is just some of the success stories, because we like to share our success. And one guy here, Serge Ramelli, he was a photographer, a very awesome photographer who has written books on Lightroom and Photoshop and different Adobe products for photographers. And he wanted to get into the app world, so he started creating apps. And I actually interviewed him for a podcast that I do about Buzztouch, and he said that he found Buzztouch, and within like 14 days he had his first app done, completed, and submitted to Apple. And he does very well. I think he has close to 15 or so apps in the App Store now, and he's making really good money from it since he has really good content. He's just repurposed his content from his books into an app form. Tim Wolf there, he's doing great by making apps for EMS drivers, and he owns an EMS company, so he wanted a way to have some of the quick reference stuff that is in books and stuff like that right at their fingertips, and he's been doing well with that. And then Delinda is a teacher who has changed from teaching to helping other teachers integrate this type of technology into their classrooms and help teach kids how to make apps by using the Buzztouch system. So she's doing a great job down there in Texas and helping out kids that maybe wouldn't have had the resources to create apps or had the time to learn, and is giving them a jump start on a new technology.
Yeah, really cool. We actually have another question from Carla. We could show her this really quick. She's asking. She saw that there is a PowerPoint file can be added into the app. Can you briefly go over how you can integrate PowerPoints, Word, etc. into the app?
Okay.
So you could even drag the PDF, instruction PDF from the Xcode project if you want
All
in
right.
and use that in the app.
So we'll go back into our control panel here, go to the screens, and just because of the limited time, we usually only get to add certain types of screens on here, and you can see there's a bunch that I didn't add, and here's the kind of a short explanation of each one that we see in our down drop list here. So you can see Word, Excel, HTML, and yeah, I'm going to add this PDF. It works the same way as a Word file or an Excel file or a PowerPoint. So because I do know that I have a PDF here handy, I'm just going to call this PDF screen and add that. And once I do that, it adds this file here. I haven't linked it to anything yet, so I'm going to have to do that. But before I link it, I'm going to actually go in and tell it what it is. So we have these same kind of top navigation bar, same things that we set on some of our other screens. But the one that's really important is the document location. So we can either give it the name of a file or the name of a URL again. So if this was an online PDF, then you could just copy and paste a link right in there like I did for the picture. But in this case, we're going to just put the name of the file and we're going to drag it into the project. So I believe downloads BT underscore new user. That looks like it. So I'll just call that. Tell it what file to look for. Hit save. And go back to my screens menu. So nothing's going to change in the app yet because I haven't linked it to anything yet and I haven't compiled it again. But let's just go ahead and link that to my home screen here. Add this PDF demo as the row title, and that was called PDF screen, I believe. So now we can go back to our simulator here and refresh, and we'll see that it will add it here. But if I click on it, it's going to say, hey, you're missing something. And that's because I know I haven't dragged it in yet, so it's just completely blank. So it knows that it's supposed to be here. It actually knows what the name of the file is, but I haven't compiled it yet. So I'm going to open up my Xcode again real quick. And I've got a folder here called BT Docs, which is empty. And this is just a way of kind of keeping your stuff clean and putting it into the right place. So I'm going to take this BT New User PDF, just drag it right into that BT Docs folder, just like I drug the folders in to begin with. And I'm going to say go ahead and copy that into the destination. Hit OK. And now for that to be able to go in there, I'm going to have to recompile it. So when I hit run again, if you can see this little window here, since it's already compiled it once, it's just going to really just throw this last file in there, and it's a quicker process. It happened so fast you probably didn't see it. It said copying one file into the app. So now I've got that same PDF demo, and when I click on it, it actually pulls the file right in. So here's the PDF that we've been going through. The same thing would work for a Word document or an Excel spreadsheet or a PowerPoint.
Yeah, good stuff, Carla.
That
She
was
also
that.
she also said so videos in PowerPoint can be brought in.
Videos within PowerPoint? Is that
I
the
guess
question, or
I believe that's what she's asking. So videos in PowerPoint
okay.
can be brought in.
I've never tested that.
I've never either.
I, I would like to say that it would, but I'm not sure. It might not. You might have to link the videos separate by using one of the video player plugins. And you can use a video player plugin that plays either a video that you've dragged into your project like we just did, or you can use one that plays it off of a URL or a YouTube link.
That's a very good question, though, Carla. Actually, I'll send you a little email on that. I'll make a note of your screen name here. And I'll raise the question in the forum, actually, and we'll be able to provide everyone with answers on that. Just good little tip. And she's asking also, is there any special format for video?
For video, it depends on the platform you're going to go to. Android's going to want to have different types of videos than Apple. I think you're going to be safe with like an M4V, style, which is a very mobile friendly format. But I would consult with the plugin, and I happen to remember seeing AT5. There we go. The AT53 video player. I think he's got right here links to the different formats that are compatible, and it says for best results use MP4 videos. So if you just look at the AT53 video player, that's one of the plugins in the market, and use these links here, and you can see what the different compatible video types are.
Yeah, MP4s are usually really good across the board, and MP3 for music.
Right.
Play with it from there. And actually, Brian's saying that embedding PowerPoint won't import video.
That was kind of my gut feeling, considering it's a Microsoft product.
Right. But I imagine she could probably link to the videos, maybe, if there was. Are there clickable links in the PDFs that could take them into like a web view that would play the video outside the?
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
I know I'm opening up some worms here, and Kyla's saying, but that might be because you need to bring the video into the same file. She's question marking.
Yeah.
And then Brian's saying maybe with the new HTML plugin.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. The HTML plugin, HTML Pro plugin, really adds some neat features to linking things out of other types of content.
Yeah. This actually leads me to what I usually end all these webinars with. Not that we're ending, but like questions like Carla's bringing up. This is a great topic to post in the forum. So whether it's a yes or no question or whatever, people will know. But then these suggestions, like Brian might jump on the forum and say, let's check out the HTML plugin and find ways to make these things work, these different ideas. So introducing yourself on the forum and asking questions there is one of the huge powers of Buzztouch to get your projects done.
Absolutely. All right, are there any other questions before we wrap up?
And Carla was just asking about, is this being recorded? And yes, we are recording this webinar, and it'll be posted within 24 hours. It takes a while to upload these to YouTube. And
just to show where you would find that, if you go back in your account menu to webinars, you'll see this right here will be a link. So you can see that our new user webinar that we did 2 weeks ago, we've uploaded the video to, and that brings you right to YouTube. So any of the previous ones that you may have missed, you can watch them on video.
Yeah, it'll be posted there. No worries about that.
It'll show up right here.
And actually, while you're there, if you just want to go to the forum and show them that introduce yourself link one more time.
Yep.
I can't stress that enough. Introducing yourself. I know when I first started with Buzztouch, I felt awkward. It was actually one of my first forum experiences that was successful. And but it's amazing. Just say hello, introduce yourself, and kind of state your business, what you're looking for, and people will jump in and totally help you out. And this thing is huge, so it's like having 24/7 support. It's pretty cool. So that's my biggest tip, really, in this new user webinar. So do we have any other questions? Hopefully I don't see any hands up, and I don't see any more in the question, but oh, I do see one from Rapsep. I'm going to unmute your mic, buddy. Are you there, Rapsep?
Yes, I am. I was wondering, once we finish an app, how do we send it to the Android people or Google Play to get it published?
Let me see. Do we have a how-to on that one? Do you know off the
Um,
top of your head?
I did make a video for a class I was
Okay.
teaching in Zurich on this exact thing. You're gonna wraps up. You're gonna obviously you know what your Android Eclipse environment is, but you'll download your source code from Buzztouch. You'll open that up in your Android Eclipse environment in your compiler, and then you're gonna make what's called a .apk file, and that's what's gonna go to. You're gonna submit that to Google, to the Google Play Store. And I do have, I'll have to look for it. I do have a video that I did on that whole process, and I'm sure there's other ones around, but that'll help kind of streamline that for you to make that .apk file to submit. Um,
So it's a .apk file that I have to save it to and then send it to Google?
yep, you'll export.
Does Google have like something to send it to?
Yep, you'll make a little developer account with Google.
Okay.
Okie doke. If you have any questions anytime, jump on the forum and ask, and we can post links and get you going there. That's the best way to keep moving. So
Yep.
don't be
I was looking on the forum earlier and like how do I get to the part to post stuff on?
probably the new topic button some people miss sometimes. That might be what he's talking about.
Right. And from the main page, there isn't one. So just pick the best category that's closest to it, and then you'll see a new topic button on the top of that. So sometimes picking the closest form category is the hardest part. Figuring out what you want to do, maybe App Store approvals or App Store rejections or installing Eclipse and configuring, and then just click on new topic, and that lets you add a topic.
Right. And actually, I think what I'll do, you want to show them the how-tos page? I'll actually add these videos that I did as maybe a resource there. That might be a good place. Maybe I'll have David add it as a resource. If you think that's a good
Okay.
idea, Chris.
Yep.
That way everyone can watch these Android videos that I've made. So look for a link within the next 24 hours on this how-tos page about compiling your Android app or something like that. I'll have some videos for you guys to sink your teeth into. But again, feel free to use that forum up. Did you have another question, Repsep? I see your hand up, Repsep, but I'm not sure. Did you have another question, or are you all good? I believe he's all good.
Yeah.
Okie doke. Cool. Does anyone else have any other questions? I mean, there's a million different things we could think of and talk about. The biggest thing is, for me, I'm the kind of guy that just likes to jump right in and start trying to create something. So hopefully you've learned some of the basics of Buzztouch. But when you get stuck, jump into the Buzztouch forum. There's no question that's too silly to ask. Trust me, I went back to some of my questions I asked a little over a year ago, and they might seem silly to me now, but at the time they really helped me move along, and I have some successful apps and clients and everything now. It's pretty fantastic. So use that Buzztouch forum.
Very cool.
Oh, we've got.
Well, I wanted to
Oops,
thank you
sorry.
all for thank you all for attending tonight and taking the time. And don't forget that promo code if you decide to upgrade your account. Go Heat, and that will get you $10 off. And if you're able to time that correctly with the million promotion also, then you'll get $10 off of the discounted $49.99. We don't have an expiration date listed on that, so that I can't tell you when it's going to end. But if this seems like a good deal for you, then now's the best time. This is actually the lowest price we've ever offered for the membership. And again, that's just our way of thanking you for spending the time and listening to our webinar.
Actually, and Rapsep has one more question. Go ahead, buddy. You there, Rapsep?
Okay. My question was, you were talking about like the Buzztouch how-tos or whatever it was. I was wondering what that would be under. It's not under how-tos.
Oh, I'm going to post the link to those videos yet. So
Okay, because there was two options. There was like three options. There was like Buzztouch, iOS, and Android.
Yeah, you'll probably put those down in the Android section, right?
right, yeah, I'll add those within the next 24 hours. I mean, probably sooner than that they'll go there, but and there's other documentation in there that can help you along. But sometimes videos are kind of cool to see, so I'll post what I have so far as well there. Sound good?
Okay. Yeah.
Cool. Great questions.
In the meantime, this might be a good one to start with. Go Northwest is really good at documenting how to get Android set up and stuff. So this looks like it's a compilation of a bunch of other how-tos. That would be a good place to start.
Yeah, he's got some really good stuff. So cool. Do we have any other questions? Well, then I'd like to thank everyone we've got some thank yous coming in. We appreciate all those. Chris and I, basically, we love messing around with Buzztouch, and we love hosting these webinars and helping new friends succeed, building apps and building cool stuff. And again, the power of downloading your source code and owning it. This is yours to keep when you download this source code, whether or not you even dig around in the source code and change anything. You own the app. You submit your app to the App Store. You own the thing. The money you make is all yours to keep. You know, if you have revenue coming in, so it's a really cool thing. And I'll just stress one more time: jump in that form, introduce yourself, and let people know that you're here and what you expect to do and what you'd like to do. And there's thousands and thousands of people waiting to say hello.
And for those of you that have thanked us for this webinar, the best way that you can really thank us is when you get your app completed and submitted and approved. Come back to the App Store approvals and thank yous and submit it and tell everybody what you made. You can see all these great approved, and you know, that's what we want to see. We want to see you guys succeed with this and see you guys get your baby into the market.
Yep, all good stuff. So I want to officially thank everyone for hanging out tonight with us. And we host these new user webinars every 2 weeks, always on Wednesdays. So if you want to ever pop back in for some other questions or say hi or sit in, always cool stuff to do. And look for the recording of this webinar within the next 24 hours. And also I'll post some video stuff in the how-to section regarding the Android APK file. So cool. I want to say thank you once again. Thanks, Chris, for keeping us awake and alert and doing all the techie stuff. So we'll see you all very soon. Alrighty, go build something cool.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Bye.